Hi there, my name is Hilary Booth and I'm a naturopathic doctor, and welcome to my video blog. Today I want to talk about going gluten-free. This is something there's a lot of hype about recently, but I want to try and clear up any of the misconceptions that there are about going gluten-free, and I want to sort of set the record straight by answering sort of the who, what, where, when, why, and how of going gluten-free. So first of all, what is gluten? Gluten is the protein that's found in many different grain products. So it's made up of gliadin and glutenin, which are combined together to create this protein. And it's sort of what gives wheat and bread and this kind of thing its chewy texture. So where is this protein found? So gluten is the protein that's found in wheat, rye, spelt, barley, and some oats are also contaminated with gluten. But it's also found in a lot of other products that we use in our day-to-day lives because it's hidden. It's used as a filler and it's used as a thickener in a lot of different things. So be very careful about the processed foods that you're eating. Anything that's prepackaged or pre-made, you want to take a very good look at. But also some weird hidden things that it could be in include ketchup, soy sauce, pre-made soups, and sometimes actually even in powdered pepper. When you find the pre-powdered pepper at the store, that can contain gluten as a filler as well. So when did gluten become such a big deal? So there's a lot of chatter around this, but my take on it is this. Basically, there are a lot of changes that occurred in the mid-20th century, and these changes included hybridization of different crops and some modifications of those crops in order to increase the crop yield. So, which is a good thing for farmers in some senses. It allows them to grow more of it, less of it dies off or is killed off, and also it grows faster and easier. Now, the result is that the gluten we eat today is very different from the gluten that we were consuming many, many years ago. So the gluten that our great-great-grandmothers would have consumed would not be the same thing, sort of on a genetic level. Now, the other major change that we're experiencing is the way that we eat food. So the first thing is that in my great-grandmother's age, there was no such thing as processed food. There was no such thing as grabbing a quick lunch. You know, my great-great-grandmother always cooked everything from scratch, and so there weren't all these processed foods and fillers and all these things where we're often having gluten without even knowing it. But the other thing is that the way that we eat is much different. We often have an entire day that's basically completely made up of gluten meals, right? You have your Weetabix or whatever gluten-y thing for breakfast, and then you have a sandwich for lunch, and then you have pasta for dinner. So this wasn't always the way that we've eaten. So now, why does gluten cause problems for so many people? So I wanted to differentiate first between having a gluten allergy and having gluten intolerance. So a gluten allergy, meaning that you have celiac disease, means that your body is reacting in such a way that the villi, or the little like finger projections that are in your intestinal tract, are actually completely flattened. This causes diarrhea, this causes weight loss, and it causes lack of nutrient absorption. This is a serious condition, and celiac disease is something that in order to have it properly diagnosed, you actually need an intestinal biopsy. Now, gluten intolerance is something where people's bodies aren't happy when you have gluten, and this can have tons and tons of effects in the body. But basically, when gluten and other poor dietary habits and stress irritate the gut lining, it goes from this, meaning it has a good integrity and nothing gets through it that's not supposed to this. And so it becomes leaky and allows things to get through it. So we spoke about this on my blog before, but I'll say it again. So once these gluten particles are there, it's a large protein. It gets through the intestinal wall and it gets into the bloodstream. When it's in the bloodstream, your body sees it as an intruder. It sees it as something that it needs to attack and get rid of, like a virus or bacteria. So it creates an immune response and attacks that gluten particle and creates immune complexes. Now, these immune complexes can sort of go around in your bloodstream and they can wreak havoc and cause inflammation in other parts of your body. So that's why we see such a wide variety of symptoms and inflammation in people who have gluten intolerances. But sort of this is why it can have such a varied effect in different people, and why gluten can be so important to take out of the diet if you are struggling with some of these symptoms. So, who might be gluten intolerant? These people, these symptoms are very varied. You can have digestive issues such as gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, indigestion. You could have memory problems, fatigue, brain fog. You kind of, especially if after you eat a gluten-filled meal, you kind of 1 hour later or 2 hours later or so, you kind of get that brain fog fall over you. If you have an autoimmune disease, especially if you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is hypothyroidism that's caused by an autoimmune disorder. If you have rheumatoid arthritis or Crohn's or colitis, multiple sclerosis and scleroderma are some other examples of autoimmune conditions where going off gluten can be very beneficial. Other things include hormone imbalances, like in PCOS, which I spoke about in my video blog a couple weeks ago, PMS symptoms, unexplained infertility, acne. If you have yeast infections, again, this could be something to look into. If you have generalized pain, including migraines, headaches, and joint pain, going off gluten can be extremely helpful. If you have inflammation or swelling anywhere in the body, going off gluten can reduce that inflammation. If you have abdominal weight gain, again, if you've heard of the book Wheat Belly, it explains a little bit about that in that novel. If you have mood disorders like anxiety and depression, if you have ADHD, or if you have mood swings, again, gluten can affect all these things. So how do you know if you should be gluten-free? This is the big question. There are two ways that you can find out whether or not you should be avoiding gluten or eliminating it altogether in your diet. The first is to try it. Go gluten-free. You should do a trial of at least 3 weeks. Get it all out of your system. This is not the 80-20 rule. This is the 100% gluten-free rule. You're taking it completely out of your diet. This allows your body to get rid of all those immune complexes that are floating around, and over time those immune complexes are flushed out of the system, and you'll reduce all the pain that you're experiencing, the brain fog, the digestive issues, etc. So after doing this gluten-free trial period of at least 3 weeks, you need to do, or you should do, a reintroduction. So this is a gluten challenge. So basically, in the morning you should have a meal with gluten in it, for example, some toast, and then at lunch you should have another meal with some gluten in it, for example, pasta salad or something like that. And then you wait. About 3 days or so is when you typically will see the symptoms arise. So your original symptoms will come back, whether that was your bloating and your diarrhea, or if that was your acne and your PMS symptoms, for example. So after you do this trial, if you do notice these symptoms come back, obviously gluten is not for you and should be kept out of your diet. If you do this trial and you notice that there aren't any effects, then that's great. But I would recommend that over time, and when you start to build up the amount of gluten that you're eating per day, and over time, you can again insult the body with a lot of gluten, and you may start to notice those symptoms come back. So again, I would just recommend you take the gluten out again for a period of 3 weeks, and then you can work on it this way. The other thing that you can do, which may seem simpler for some people, is to get a food intolerance test. This is just a simple finger prick blood test that we do right in the office here. And it basically tells you if you have a sensitivity to 96 different foods. So remember those food particles that we're talking about that were getting immune complexes formed around them in the body? It tests for those. So it's looking for those complexes in the body, and it lets you know if you have those to 96 different foods, gluten being one of them. Now, if you get that test result back, it's going to show you not just gluten, it's going to show you other things in the body that you may want to take out to, again, alleviate the symptoms that we were speaking about earlier. It's a little bit quicker, but it's more expensive, and it's not as black and white as doing the actual elimination with challenge. So I hope this video was helpful for you to figure out exactly what gluten is, what it can do in the body, and why this gluten-free fad may have something to it, and why it can be very helpful for some people to eliminate gluten from their diets altogether. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me on my Facebook page, or to go to the contact page of my website at hillarybooth.com. I'd be happy to answer your questions. Alternately, you can make an appointment by phoning the office, or by contacting me directly, or by going onto my website and clicking the book an appointment link there. So again, I hope this was helpful for you, and have a great week, everybody. Take care.